Can you see anything in there?
You're not blind.
I thought it was foggy in here.
No, it's just your glasses.
That's better.
Right. Hello, Mother.
Hello.
Hey up.
Welcome to Listen with Mummy.
Oh, wait, but why are we doing it today? What's the news?
Well, the news is I am now listed on Amazon.
Woo!
Whoop, 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 whoop.
So you can...
There are lots of titles of One for Sorrow, so don't be put off by reams of them. You've got to put in my name, otherwise you'll get loads and loads of
Well,
them.
the link will be underneath this video in perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
So it's now available to download off Amazon. It's very exciting, isn't it?
At a very reasonable price.
It's a very reasonable price, yes. Yay.
Right, are you ready for a little excerpt?
Go on then.
Are we sitting comfortably?
I am.
Then we'll begin. Dr. Lachlan Muir climbed up onto the gig and turned the pony's head towards the lane. When they'd reached the gatehouse, he reined the pony to a halt. Now that dawn had almost broken, he could see a fair distance up the road. The pony pawed at the ground. Just a little bit further, eh, Bruce, my lad? Halfway along the lane to the crossroads, Lachlan thought he could hear a strange rumbling noise. Whoa, laddie, whoa! Lachlan pulled back on the reins. What the? In the still dawn, even the slightest sound was amplified, the very air itself seeming to vibrate. A wagon, a heavy wagon at that, he said to himself, rising in his seat to gauge the direction. Sounds like it's coming from York. I'll wager it's Peg come for their wee lasses. The pony lifted his head and pricked his ears. You want to be off, do you, laddie? Lachlan grinned and flicked the reins. When they came to a group of evergreens a short distance from the crossroad, he checked the pony, making sure they were concealed by the dense shade. The rumbling got closer and closer. Lachlan waited until the source of the sound came into view. A prison wagon, he exclaimed under his breath. So that's how they transport them. It was unlikely that such a wagon would be stopped, even on the highway, especially if it was carrying prisoners or lunatics. He watched the wagon turn down the lane towards the woodman's cottage. Best wait a while, laddie, eh? You know what Elspeth said? Down the lane, Rowley and Charlie stood side by side facing the oncoming wagon. How are we going to stop 'em? Charlie hissed. Rowley grinned. Like Mighty Mouse and Hubert the Terrible. Rowley had long admired the two prize fighters. Don't you think it best to wait for t'others? Charlie hissed. Nah, muttered Rowley. Let's have a bit of fun. The wagon grew closer, but Rowley and Charlie stood their ground until the cumbersome wagon rumbled to a stop. What the? The driver stood up in his seat. Get out of bloody way, he shouted, lashing his whip at Rowley. But the lad was too quick and jumped aside, the leather thong missing its mark by a yard. Bloody! The whip cracked again, but this time it caught fast on an overhanging branch. While the driver was attempting to pull the whip free, Rowley seized his chance. Grasping the halter of the lead horse, he turned its head towards its partner, making both horses buck to one side. The wagon rocked violently, and Peg, unseated by the movement, tumbled to the ground. Meanwhile, Charlie grabbed hold of the driver's leg and pulled him off his seat. For a moment, the two men lay winded on either side of the wagon. Rowley and Charlie stood ready, with fists clenched, waiting for them to get up. Peg snarled and scrambled to his feet. Rowley raised his fist. "Come on, you bastard," he jeered. "Come on and have some fun. Come to have fun with lassies, have you?" Peg cursed and swung his fist at Rowley. "Bloody young tyke," he spat as Rowley squared up to him. "I'll have you." But Rowley had watched many fistfights and knew how to duck and dive. For a time he dipped and swerved out of reach of Peg's huge hands. But Peg was like a bull enraged, and it was only a matter of time before Rowley's luck ran out and a blow lifted him bodily into the air. For his part, Charlie was having better luck with the wirily built driver, Joe Sowden. He dealt him a few sound blows to the head until he, in turn, was winded by a punch to his stomach. But the lad, used to scrapping with his fellow apprentices, merely grimaced and lunged at his assailant with gritted teeth. "Bastard," he spat. "Better at fighting lasses, are you?" Rowley and Peg circled each other like prize fighters. Although Peg had the advantage of size, Rowley was the more agile of the two, with the result that neither of them gained the upper hand. "Come on then," growled Peg as he lunged forward. Rowley grinned, dancing aside. "I'm here, you fat bastard." But his cockiness served only to rile Peg even more. Rowley aimed a blow at Peg's jaw, but it landed wide of the mark. Peg countered with a swing at Rowley's head, but the lad ducked just in time. Rowley squared up to him again. "Fat bastard," he sneered, raising his fist to her chin. "Come on then, you lumper lad." Peg smiled grimly as Rowley circled about him. Suddenly Rowley's foot became tangled in the whip and he fell backwards. Peg sneered down at him and picked up a large stone. "Come on then, lad. Let's see what you make of this." The gig slowed to a halt at a bend in the lane. Some way ahead, Lachlan could see a corner of the wagon in front of him. So why has it stopped there, he wondered. He stood up to get a better view and saw that the wagon was tipped to one side, its rear wheel almost in the ditch. Shouts were coming from somewhere up ahead. Has Simon found the rogues? Lachlan envisaged Bulk and his men with their hefty cudgels setting about Peg and his accomplice with enthusiasm. Such is what they deserve, Lachlan nodded to himself. Even so, I'd better see if any heads are broken. He descended carefully from the gig, jumping the last foot or so onto the soft ground. As he landed, something hard knocked against his leg. What the deuce? Then he realised what it was. My pistol. The pistol that had not once in all the years he'd owned it been fired in anger. He smiled. Elspeth, she must have put it there. As he made his way towards the wagon, the sound of fighting grew louder. Not Bulk nor his men by the sound of it. Then he heard, "Come on then, you lumper lad." Rowley? And then, "Let's see what you make of this." Peg? Lachlan rushed to the front of the wagon, just in time to see Peg raise a heavy stone above his head. Without even thinking, his hand reached for the pistol, and he found himself pointing it at Peg. "Stop! Stop, or I'll shoot!" Peg half turned, the stone still grasped in his huge fist, and smirked, seeing that the doctor's hand was shaking. "Bugger off," Peg sneered. Lachlan blinked, steadied his hand, and fired twice, just as Peg was about to bring the stone down on Rowley's head. The first bullet flew over Peg's head, but the second sliced into his shoulder. With a shout of pain, he fell sideways in front of the old mare. Startled by the movement and the pistol shots, she reared up, her great hooves sending clods of mud high into the air. Peg looked up, just as the mare's hooves fell towards him. Moments later, his head was no more than a mess of blood and bone in the sodden earth.
Blooming heck.
Oh, that's cosy.
We've got an action scene.
An action scene with fighting.
Fights and horses and all. And clods. That's such a good word, clod.
Aye.
Aye.
But there we are. So a little bit of an excerpt from my book.
Yay.
So I hope you enjoyed it.
Available now on Amazon.
At a reasonable price.
Link underneath.
Link underneath.
Bye.